The air was thick with tension as the red sedan screeched to a stop on the roadside. Officer Mark Reynolds, seasoned but not unshakable, approached the vehicle with his usual calm demeanor. Yet something about the scene unsettled him. The teenage girl in the passenger seat sat stiffly, her hands clutching a crumpled piece of paper. Her tear-filled eyes darted toward him, then quickly away, as though she feared even looking at him might betray her secret. Mark leaned into the window, his gaze flicking between the stoic driver and the visibly shaken girl. "License and registration, please," he said firmly. The man handed over his documents with a forced smile, but Mark's attention was glued to the girl. Her trembling hand slowly extended the crumpled note, her movement so subtle that only someone as observant as Mark would notice. "What's this?" he asked, his voice softening as he took the paper. Her lips quivered, but she said nothing. As Mark unfolded the note and his eyes scanned the shaky handwriting, his heart plummeted. The words screamed off the page, each one hitting him like a freight train. "Help me! I'm in danger!" Mark froze for half a second, his mind racing as he pieced together what he was seeing. The driver noticed his hesitation, his eyes narrowing. The air grew heavier as Mark made a decision that could change everything. How would you react if a simple traffic stop turned into a desperate plea for help? Stay tuned to uncover the chilling truth behind the note that sent Officer Mark racing into action. Before we uncover the truth behind that chilling note, take a moment to like this video, comment below, and subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories that will leave you speechless. Let's dive into the moment that turned an ordinary traffic stop into a life-altering mission. The sun hung low over the quiet stretch of Highway 67, casting long shadows across the asphalt. The faint hum of distant engines filled the air as Officer Mark Reynolds sat in his patrol car, observing the steady flow of vehicles. At 38 years old, Mark was a dedicated officer with over a decade of experience. Known for his sharp instincts and compassionate nature, he often reminded himself why he joined the force: to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Yet even with years of service, nothing could prepare him for the moment that was about to unfold. Mark's childhood was marked by a sense of justice. Losing his older sister in a hit-and-run when he was just a teenager had ignited a fire in him. Her case had gone unsolved, leaving a void in his family. It was her memory that drove Mark to pursue a career in law enforcement, vowing to be the kind of officer who would fight for the voiceless. The setting was an unremarkable two-lane highway bordered by dry, golden fields. The occasional cluster of trees provided sparse shade, and a distant gas station sign flickered against the backdrop of the fading day. It was the kind of road where time seemed to stretch endlessly, with no indication of the drama that was about to unfold. The red sedan that caught Mark's attention seemed out of place, not for its appearance, but for its erratic movement. The driver was swerving slightly, enough to trigger Mark's instincts. He activated his patrol car's lights and pulled the vehicle over. Inside the car sat two people. The driver, a middle-aged man with a hardened expression, and a teenage girl, no older than 16, in the passenger seat. The man's demeanor was calm, almost too calm, as he reached for his license and registration. But it was the girl who drew Mark's attention. Her pale face and wide eyes spoke volumes, even though she remained silent. She clutched a crumpled piece of paper tightly in her hands, as if it were a lifeline. The girl, later identified as Mia, had a story of her own. Raised by her single mother, Mia had been a bright and hopeful child. But when her mother remarried, things took a dark turn. Her stepfather, the man now sitting behind the wheel, had slowly turned their home into a place of fear and control. Mia's note wasn't just a cry for help. It was a last-ditch effort to escape a situation she believed no one could save her from. The stakes couldn't have been higher. For Mia, this moment was her only chance to break free from her stepfather's control and seek safety. For Mark, the crumpled note represented a critical decision to trust his gut and act, or risk leaving a girl in danger. As the tension in the air thickened, the stage was set for a confrontation that would test everything Mark believed in. The faint hum of a distant engine faded as the highway grew still. Unbeknownst to Mark, the note in Mia's hands carried a message that would shake him to his core, forcing him to take immediate action to protect a girl whose courage had brought her to the edge of salvation. Mark's fingers trembled slightly as he unfolded the crumpled note handed to him by Mia, the teenage girl in the passenger seat. The faint scrawl of the words hit him like a punch to the gut. "Help me, he's going to hurt me." His heart sank, the meaning sinking in quickly. He glanced at Mia, her wide eyes begging him to understand, to act. The driver, oblivious to the note, continued fiddling with his paperwork. "Everything okay, officer?" he asked casually, his tone calm but guarded. Mark forced himself to remain composed, folding the note and slipping it into his pocket. "Just routine," he replied, masking the storm brewing inside him. But his mind was racing. If he didn't act carefully, the situation could spiral out of control. As he stepped back to his patrol car, Mark radioed for backup, keeping his voice steady to avoid raising suspicion. "Requesting assistance at my location, possible code red." He couldn't risk making a move without support, not knowing what the man might do if he felt cornered. The seconds dragged on, each one amplifying the tension. Mark studied the driver's behavior from his rearview mirror. The man seemed calm, but there was a subtle edge to his movements, a stiffness that didn't sit right. Meanwhile, Mia's posture screamed desperation. She sat frozen, gripping the door handle as though ready to run at any moment. Mark's gut told him this wasn't just about Mia's safety. There was more to this man than met the eye. A quick check of the vehicle's plates revealed a prior report of suspicious activity tied to the same car. His instincts sharpened. This wasn't a coincidence. Secondary conflicts began to emerge. The backup officers radioed back, reporting delays due to traffic congestion, leaving Mark to navigate the escalating situation alone for the time being. At the same time, he noticed Mia's stepfather glancing at her repeatedly, as though sensing her fear was palpable enough to betray her secret. Mark decided to stall. "Sir," he said, walking back to the driver's window, "mind stepping out of the vehicle for a moment? Just routine questions." The man's smile tightened, his eyes narrowing. "Why? Is there a problem?" Mark kept his tone calm but firm. "Just procedure. Won't take long." Reluctantly, the man stepped out, his movements slow and deliberate. As Mark guided him toward the rear of the car, he kept one eye on Mia. She used the moment to mouth two words to him. "He's armed." Mark's pulse quickened. The stakes had just escalated. He had to neutralize the threat without endangering Mia. The man, noticing Mark's focus shifting, grew visibly agitated. "Is there something you're not telling me, officer?" he asked, his voice low and tense. Mark straightened. "Stay right here, sir." But as he reached for his radio to update the situation, the man lunged back toward the car. His sudden movement sent a jolt of adrenaline through Mark. "Mia, get out of the car," Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the tense silence. Mia hesitated for only a moment before flinging the door open. The man spun around, fury etched on his face. "You little," he growled, reaching for her, but Mark was faster. "Stop right there," Mark barked, his weapon drawn, his voice sharp and commanding. The situation teetered on the brink, the man's next move holding the power to determine everything. As sirens blared faintly in the distance, signaling the arrival of backup, Mark stood firm, his finger hovering over the trigger. The rising tension reached its peak, setting the stage for a confrontation that would decide the fate of everyone involved. The sound of approaching sirens was still distant as Mark faced the man, his weapon trained steadily on him. The stepfather froze, his hand hovering near the waistband of his jacket, where Mark suspected a concealed weapon might be. The tension in the air was suffocating, every second stretching into eternity. "Mia, step away from the car," Mark commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos surging inside him. Mia hesitated, her fear paralyzing her. "I'm sorry," she whispered, barely audible, tears streaming down her face. "Move now," Mark barked, his eyes flicking between Mia and her stepfather. His urgency jolted her into action, and she stumbled out of the car, clutching the crumpled note that had brought her to this moment. As she backed away, the man's face twisted in fury. "You've ruined everything," he shouted, lunging toward the car door. In one fluid motion, Mark stepped forward, his voice booming. "Stop. Hands where I can see them." The man ignored the command, his hand darting inside his jacket. Mark didn't wait to see what he was reaching for. A shot rang out, the sound cracking through the air like thunder. The man dropped to his knees, clutching his arm where the bullet had grazed him. Mark moved swiftly, disarming him and kicking the weapon, a loaded pistol, safely out of reach. Her decision to send Lily with the drawing was a calculated risk she took to protect her sister and expose the truth. Ben visited the girls' home a few days later, finding them in the care of a supportive community that had rallied around their family. Their mother, overwhelmed with gratitude, thanked him repeatedly for saving her daughters. "You believed them," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Not everyone would have acted as quickly as you did." Ben smiled faintly. "They're the real heroes. Emily's bravery and Lily's trust in the drawing were what saved the day." The small town, shaken by the revelations, came together to support the sisters and demand justice. Local authorities ramped up investigations into the larger network, determined to dismantle it entirely. For Ben, the experience was a stark reminder of why he joined the force: to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He carried the crayon drawing with him for weeks after the incident, a reminder of the lives he'd helped save and the courage it took to speak out, even when it seemed impossible. As Emily and Lily began to rebuild their lives, their story inspired others in the community. Schools started programs to educate children about speaking up, and neighbors became more vigilant in looking out for one another. The small piece of paper that once symbolized fear had transformed into a beacon of hope. Through their bravery and Ben's swift action, Emily and Lily had turned their darkest moment into a story of resilience, justice, and new beginnings. The quiet hum of activity at the police station contrasted sharply with the chaos of the days prior. Officer Ben Carter sat at his desk, the crayon drawing carefully placed in a protective sleeve. It was a simple piece of paper, yet it held the weight of courage, fear, and the unwavering determination of two young sisters. The case had been a turning point, not just for Emily and Lily, but for the entire community. The evidence uncovered at the house had led to multiple arrests, unraveling a criminal network that had operated in the shadows for years. Emily's bravery and Lily's trust in her sister's plan had sparked a chain reaction, exposing truths that might have otherwise remained buried. For Ben, the experience left a profound mark. It reminded him of the fragile balance between fear and hope, of how even the smallest acts of courage could create ripples far beyond their origin. He carried the lessons of that day with him, vowing to listen more closely, act more decisively, and never dismiss a cry for help, no matter how small it might seem. Emily and Lily, though forever changed by the ordeal, began to heal. Their bond grew stronger, rooted in the knowledge that they had faced something far greater than themselves, and emerged stronger for it. Emily found her voice in the weeks that followed, speaking at school assemblies and community meetings about the importance of speaking out and standing up for what's right. The community rallied around them, using their story as a catalyst for change. Programs were established to provide resources for vulnerable families, and law enforcement agencies worked to strengthen their ties with the neighborhoods they served. The once quiet suburb became a beacon of resilience and vigilance, ensuring that no one would be left to face such dangers alone again. As Ben prepared to leave the station one evening, he glanced once more at the crayon drawing on his desk. The image, which had once filled him with dread, now served as a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments there is always a chance for light. He folded the drawing carefully and placed it in his jacket pocket, knowing it would serve as a personal reminder of the day he witnessed true bravery. As he stepped out into the cool night air, he couldn't help but wonder what other stories might be waiting just around the corner, what other voices might need to be heard. Because if there was one lesson he had learned, it was this: sometimes the smallest hands carry the biggest truths. And it's up to those who listen to ensure those truths make all the difference. If this incredible story of bravery and determination moved you, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. What would you have done in Officer Ben's shoes? Or Emily's? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. Let's start a conversation about courage, resilience, and the power of speaking up, no matter the odds. And if you want more stories that inspire, shock, or make you think, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another gripping tale. Together, let's explore the stories that remind us of the strength of the human spirit. See you in the next video.